Marvelous!
So the wiki skim on this movie is quite a bit long, so I'm going to split it into two parts. Okay. But here we are once again, Marvelous Journey, pre-journey, before the actual journey. Helping Hand, what do you know about the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I knew nothing about them before I watched the movie.
Alright. Not one of the characters.
No.
Alright. So, I actually did quite a bit of wiki skimming. In fact, I did the wiki skim on the day that we were supposed to meet up, but you got sick. And my findings were interesting. It's actually kind of okay that you don't know anything about these characters, because most of these characters don't exist. Well, okay, let me explain. They exist. Their names do, at least. But as far as who they are in the comics, even compared to something like Iron Man or Black Panther or something like that, their movie versions compared to their comic book counterparts, except for Rocket and Groot, these characters are very different. Gamora is still the adopted daughter of Thanos, and Star-Lord is Star-Lord kinda. The reason he picked Star-Lord is very different. He's not a Celestial, actually, in the comics.
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
I know. Well, I mean, if you haven't seen them, what are you doing?
Sure.
In fact, he is part alien, though. He's not exactly a stand-up good guy, but he's not the anti-hero that he is in the movies. He's much more of a traditional hero in the comics. This Peter Quill guy.
Okay.
Drax. Oh, Drax was the most interesting. So Drax was actually created from the soul of somebody who died on Earth. I think the story was Thanos brought a ship to Earth, and something happened to where people could see that ship. So Thanos wanted to make sure that there was no evidence of people seeing his ship, so he killed the people within the vicinity. One of them being, I think his name was Anthony or something, on Earth. And I forget exactly who the character was, but another character... Oh! Thanos' dad. Thanos' dad and another guy conspire to take the soul of that guy and bring him back as a being whose sole purpose is to hate Thanos. As such, he is born as Drax the Destroyer. It's wild.
Okay.
I didn't do much of a wiki skim on Groot and Rocket. I think I did at one point in time, and I found it not to be that interesting.
Basically the same, I would assume.
Gamora is actually, of these characters, her general gist is the same, but how she acts and the events that lead, she is the same but different. I don't want to go into too much detail. We'll be here all day. You know anything about Yondu?
Yondu. A little, but not enough to skim. I knew 3 sentences.
Oh, what were the 3 sentences?
I know he had an arrow. At some point, he just rivaled to Star-Lord, and that he was not always a father figure, basically.
No, he was not. I think Yondu actually had his own comics, too, at some point. Biggest difference is that Yondu is much less of a hillbilly, more of a tribal dude. He doesn't need the head fin to control his arrow either. It's just a thing that he wears. Also, he has multiple arrows, typically.
Oh god. That's terrifying.
Yeah, and I don't know if he has the exact same level of control as he does in the movies, but yeah, he does have control over them. Oh, he does so with whistling, not with a head fin. However, that's
he whistles and
yeah. So it's the pitch that he makes is what controls the arrow. It's the pitch that his race can make can control these arrows, and also there are more of him, and they can also control arrows.
So it's an entire race.
Yes, there's an entire race of these people. He does become a Ravager though, and at some point he does pseudo kidnap Peter but it's not quite the father figure like it is in the movies. In fact, so Peter's mom does die in the comics,
Okay.
but he keeps going after that. He doesn't like get kidnapped by the Ravagers. He continues to live his life. He eventually goes into like the space program, and then it's from there that he gets to space and then gets captured.
Why did they change that so much?
Probably to make a more fitting story.
Yeah, probably it's like they probably already knew what the sequel was going to be. Because literally in the first movie, like how we didn't give him to his father.
Yes, I want to talk about that too. There's another person on this kit. Oh, because they're in the first movie. You know anything about Howard the Duck?
He was a joke character. That's all I know.
What about Cosmo? Cosmo makes an appearance.
Cosmo. He was originally Russian playing dog.
Yes, he still is actually. It's only one.
And he's a psychic.
Yes,
A psychic Russian dog.
it's only one movie that I have seen. I have a feeling you have not seen that he actually like speaks more. But yeah, he's still Russian.
Also, you led nowhere in some movies. Leads nowhere.
Well, not movies,
Just
but
not-
yeah, yes.
Yeah. He leads nowhere up like altogether.
And I think that's where we're gonna cut it for this. Oh wait, no, this.
I
Well,
know.
shit.
I know more about the dog because I was interested in the dog.
Me too, actually. Cosmo's the best boy. Collector.
The Collector. I'm sad he died early because I know he has a lot of good beat plots against other people.
Did he die?
I thought he died with the stone, and then
No, he did not die. He did not die. I know for a fact he did not die.
oh,
Yes, because he shows up in a later movie. Spoilers, but
I didn't know that. I thought he died.
all right. But what do you know about him?
Some interpretations he collects creatures only. I know that, and I know some interpretations he collects everything. I've only seen him as a villain. Has he always been a villain?
He's typically put in an antagonistic role, but I wouldn't necessarily call him a villain. I know him as part of the Elders of the Universe, along with the Grandmaster. There's quite a few others. I don't know if we're ever going to see them in these movies.
Okay.
Although, I think of the Grandmasters, unfortunately, or not of the Elders of the Universe, unfortunately, that is the one I know the least about, even though I probably should have looked them up for the wiki skim. But I got a lot of characters on this wiki skim anyway.
Yep.
So, I got 2 more before we launch into some things. I got 3 more before we launch into some things. I added one just now.
Yeah, okay.
Power Stone.
Power Stone.
Power Stone.
Was that actually the Power Stone? I thought it was the different one.
That was the Power Stone.
Okay. What I know about the Power Stone is it mainly just gives strength from what I've heard in the comics.
Yeah.
And the blast of energy destroying the entire planet was a little new for me.
The Elders of the Universe also at one point held on to the Infinity Stones before Thanos got to them. I believe the Collector was the one who was the holder of the Power Stone. May have been the Gardener, though.
I don't know much about the Elder one, so.
Alright. And then, second to last, Ronan. What about Ronan? Unless you have more on the Power Stone.
Ronan, I've known as he's always a villain. He's been labeled as an extremist sometimes. I don't know if he's ever been a good guy.
No. He's like a Kree.
Terrorist.
Not a terrorist.
He's
Like a
true.
maximalist or... No, that's the wrong word too.
I don't know how to describe him.
They're
He's just, all I can see is crazy person.
hypermentalist? I forgot the exact word that is used to describe them. I think you might have been on the money though. On that damn, I forgot the word you used too. Not terrorist. The other one.
Extremist?
Probably. That doesn't sound correct, but I can't remember the word, so I'm gonna say you're correct.
Did you wiki skim him?
I did, and I forgot. Because I think that was one of the first people I wiki skimmed.
Okay.
And I don't think I did him on that day that I did the majority of these wiki skims. There's one more, and I think I'm gonna save him for just right after this first bit though. We got a format on this show. I need you to take it away. Tell me
Hello.
what happened in this movie.
It starts off with the scene of Peter and his mother. She's dying from cancer. Interesting start. And then Peter's mother keeps asking him to grab her hand. I'm just going to skip over some things.
No, that's fine.
He refused. He says he couldn't do it. And then she died, like right there. Traumatic as freak.
You can curse on this Christian channel. It's fine.
Yeah, he runs away. Then pretty much immediately as soon as he gets outside, he gets kidnapped. And then Peter starts, like, looking dramatic as he's... Or Star-Lord, I guess you can say. Dramatic as he starts entering. And then, like, soon then reveals, like, he's kind of silly and idiot. Sometimes, like, dancing around.
No, you're talking about the time skip.
Yeah, time skip.
Okay.
Then there's a time skip, and then we see what he looks like now as an adult. And he goes up wandering around to get, like, some kind of thing. And he's, like, messing around automatically, basically, at the start of the movie. Kicking lizards and stuff. Also, then he gets attacked by people when he gets, like a rock.
I believe it's Kree, actually.
Kree, yeah. They were going to say, like, how'd you get this? How'd you find this? And then he steals it, like, by doing a whole bunch of tricks and stuff. He eventually gets through. Ronan the Accuser is first mentioned. When he gets to, like, the person he was trying to make a deal with, because he apparently betrayed the Ravagers, when he mentions that who was after the stone, he kicks him out and gives him the stone. Like, no, thank you. And then Gamora tries to steal the stone for him. Rocket and Groot try to capture him because they saw his bounty, because he stole the stone. And they all get captured by Novikar, because they're doing this in the middle of a public place, right after they exited the buyer. And Drax also appears to kill Gamora. So that's how he appears. He just sees Gamora and he's like appears like when they're in prison.
At first it's Ronan that he is after.
Yeah, Ronan. Thanos' first appearance, as far as I know.
Believe so, yeah.
He appears in this Guardians Galaxy movie. He looks a lot different than he does in the other movies.
Really?
A little different. If you notice some things.
It's because he was a hologram. But...
Yeah. When they first plot their escape, Groot immediately grabs, like, the first thing they need was going to set off alarm. I found that hilarious.
It's Groot.
And then one of Rocket's main gimmicks appears for the first time. He just tries to get appendages and legs and, like, mechanical stuff. And just laughs because they don't have a leg and stuff.
I forgot exactly which person it was. Or which part it was the first time, though.
Yeah. It was a leg.
It was a leg? Alright.
And it also shows that these people are not the best people, because they were thinking about leaving Peter behind with the orb. But Peter's tricked Gamora by keeping the orb just to get his music back. They learn that the Collector is the one who wants the orb. They go to nowhere with everyone to get the money, and they eventually somehow convince Drax to go with them. I don't know how he got convinced him, honestly. Peter tries to bond with Gamora, and it kind of goes well, but he doesn't want to be like any other woman, basically, you know?
Mm.
So he kind of punches him. The orb is revealed to be an Infinity Stone, what the Collector wanted, and the slave grabs it, and immediately causes an explosion. Drax gives away the location of them after that. That's what he was doing while they were getting the item. And Drax immediately tries to fight Ronan.
And loses pitifully.
Oh yeah, it's bad. And then Gamora's trying to run away and fails because Nebula shoots him out of the pod, and Star-Lord or Peter gets him out, saves her. Drax admits he was wrong to do that when they both get captured. And they would have one of the most stupid plans ever. Give us it or else we'll blow up this entire freaking ship with them on it. They team up with Friendship and it's a little fast, but like they are desperate at this point.
Well, they have a somewhat common goal.
They make a plan with Yondu to get this Infinity Stone back. And they said, like, he gets a stone. I'm surprised they go with it. We actually see his first scene using the arrow. Like, during the interrogation. Before they got it. When they get on board, we have to see a Nebula and Gamora fight. It was interesting. I love the scene when when the first weapon does not work, a super weapon, whether it launched it at Ronan, and it doesn't work.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, wow. This really establishes how powerful these Infinity Stones are. When everything just fails, Rocket just rams his entire ship into the building. Groot dying scene was sad. I don't think the Groot ever comes back.
Groot?
Yeah, not that Groot. He's technically not the original Groot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just a set replacement. Then, when Ronan the Accuser comes up and she's gonna ruin the world, Peter starts dancing and singing. And the most hilarious thing, this is a distraction, jerk. Boom, blows up the stone. And Peter grabs the Infinity Stone, which is like one of the, but it's been established beforehand, which would kill anyone but can hold onto it. And they all held hands and uses the Infinity Stone to kill Ronan the Accuser. Gamora begs Peter to not give him the stone.
Yondu the stone.
Yondu's the stone. But Peter seemingly gives him the stone. He says, you can't open this thing. Like, he's going to be very angry when he figures out I gave him the wrong one.
Only to find out he actually wasn't.
Yeah.
Because he knew.
Showing how actually Yondu is pretty close to Peter. And then Peter, at the end of this movie, they learn that Peter is half Terran. And at the end of the movie, what do we want to do? Something good? Something bad? A bit of both? A bit of both. After they get released on all charges. I thought it was a really interesting movie. What do you want? I just went over the movie, basically.
Off air, you asked me what my initial impressions of the Guardians movies were, and I actually do remember. In fact, I actually realize now I wrote it down. What I initially thought of the Guardians movies when I first saw them. So these were not on the journey. I think I did go back to Guardians, looking back at my notes from the other phone.
Yeah.
I did go back to Guardians 2 for the same reason I went back to Iron Man 3, because I didn't remember much of it, but I watched the movie and immediately remembered what happened, and I took notes, but I didn't record anything because it wasn't that significant, like my thoughts on it. I didn't see any of these in theaters. I did see them on DVD, which is actually rather perfect for something I'll get into in a second. Guardians of the Galaxy. It feels like a very different, because, I mean, I had seen Iron Man and the Avengers at that time. Very different from those movies.
Yeah.
This was still at the time where the movies had their own, well, kind of their own style. That is also something we'll be getting into much later in this series. But this movie definitely does have its own, like, of the movies still, has its own distinct kind of style of, like, how they wanted this movie to present itself. I loved the movie then, I love it now still. Hot damn, I did not realize how well this movie holds up. This movie, someone like Iron Man trilogy and Thor, where you go back to it and it's like, yeah, kind of movie. This was like, wow, I'd watch this again. I would watch this again even if I wasn't doing this for a YouTube show. That's how good this movie was. I mean, it's not like, outstanding, I got up out the seat and clapped at the movie I just watched. But it's pretty good. There's something strangely genuine about this movie, too. Speaking of genuine, unlike most movies, the soundtrack is actually somewhat canon in this movie. What do you feel about it?
Canon.
So, in addition to that scene where, Peter keeps going back for his Walkman. Yeah. It's very important to him. On that Walkman are the songs, or the licensed songs, that you hear throughout the movie. Also, it's very clearly established throughout the movie that there is sometimes that music playing in the background. And then it kind of fades into the more like us, the audience, hearing it kind of thing. So like Gamora and Peter dancing out of nowhere. He was literally playing the song that us, the audience, were hearing. Yeah. There's also times where it's more prevalent in the second movie. You hear the song being played as if it's being played in the background somewhere, and then it fades into, the more stereo us hearing it as the audience kind of thing. The soundtrack is literally canon.
And it's very nice.
Yes. What do you feel about it?
I feel like that's a pretty interesting way to incorporate songs into the movie.
I don't think I've seen another movie do it since.
Yeah. Well, Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, it does that. I mean, like, outside of Guardians of the Galaxy.
I don't think I've seen any movie, incorporate sounds into the soundtrack. I've seen a game series do it, but that's
games.
Yeah. They kind of do it to incorporate anything.
Much more expressive.
Yeah.
Alright. 2 things that stand out about this movie. The humor. This movie is funny, but it doesn't feel forced in any way, which is also something we'll get into later in another movie. And it's still, even though I've seen them, I definitely remember the events of this movie, and I definitely remember some of these jokes. Still funny going back to it. If I had to grab a movie to keep from the series, this is definitely on there. Because I could watch this again. The other thing that stands out about this movie, they do a really good job at establishing characters.
Yes.
In addition to just the ability to establish a bunch of characters at once. Because there are, 5 protagonists?
Yeah.
That we need to worry about? And they're all very well established. They're very, distinct. I know exactly who said something if I were just to read it on text. One of them is pretty obvious. Because he only has 3 words. 4 words. But... but still... And then they have, really good character moments. In fact, the rest of my notes for this movie, aside from one Wikiskim thing, is just a bunch of character moments.
I just went for the general.
I love how much emphasis they put on Peter's affinity for music, as well as how much the limited childhood he had matters to him. I'm going to talk about more of it in Guardians, or when we get to Guardians 2. But I remember a scene. It's Gamora and Peter at nowhere again, dancing. He's trying to get across a metaphor, but he's doing it in using references that only he should know. Well, he makes a reference to Footloose, and he's like, it's like a whole town of people with sticks up their butts, and they learn to dance. And Gamora rightly asks, who put the sticks up their butts?
That's barbaric.
Oh, Peter's also really good with words. I don't know if it's normal for the Marvel ethos in general.
Yeah.
The leader is typically not the strongest person on paper. So if you think about characters like Captain America compared to somebody like Hulk, someone who, Captain America is just superhuman. But Hulk takes it to the extreme. Iron Man is not superhuman, but he does have the power of tech, as well as being extremely smart. But Captain America is the leader because he is really good with words, he is great at motivating people, he understands people, which is something I see in Peter as well. They do a pretty good job establishing that. Although... in his own kind of weird
way.
I wouldn't say quirky, but kind of sorta. There's a really good quote in this movie. You know what I see when I look around at us? Losers. As in people who lost stuff. I don't know if anyone else can pull that off.
No.
It is really interesting to go back to this movie, though, and see all the references I missed. When I first watched Guardians of the Galaxy, I had no idea who most of these characters were. I was being introduced to these characters for the first time. In fact, I didn't know who characters like Thor and Ant-Man were when I first saw them. That's how far away I was from Marvel. So when Thanos showed up on his hologram projection thing, I thought that was just that was really interesting. They decided to have the big bad not be the focus of this movie, and instead focus on his henchman, and him be the powerful guy that everyone is fighting. And they don't, after Ronan essentially says "fuck you" to Thanos. Not seen again. He's gone. And at the time, I thought, oh, that's a really interesting direction. They didn't go the Naruto route of, all right, you defeated me, but, and then they point to the WrestleMania side, him over there. They just ended it there. But now, looking back at it, oh wow, what an amazing drop. Like the lead up to one of the greatest villains in history. We'll get to that in a second too. Oh, as well as like I completely missed, the first time watching it at least, completely missed the part where they literally dropped that, oh, he's half celestial. Oh, I'm so glad we didn't bring him to his dad. That guy's a jerk. Leading up to the second movie, the Kree make an appearance in this movie. In fact, one character specifically is going to make an appearance in a movie that we will be watching relatively soon. And Ronan actually also makes another appearance, which is surprising. Next, there's one more character I had on this wiki skim. Yo, where the hell is Dick Ryder?
Huh?
Dick Ryder. Richard Ryder of the Nova Corps. The Nova. Literally, Nova. Where the hell is he?
Oh, I've heard about this. I don't know.
For being called the Nova Corps, you would think a character named Nova would show up at some point. Especially considering how many there are. And for those of you who don't know, a common abbreviation for Richard is Dick. So his name is Dick Ryder.
Maybe that's why.
What's wrong with Dick Ryder?
No, maybe you know perfectly well. I'm laughing.
No, I don't.
Because
please enlighten me.
Okay, so so Marvel has some hiccups they refuse to touch in certain comics. Mm. And some of it are very stupid, like literally name after appendage is literally no.
Well, there are many a famous Dick out there. Dick Tracy? Dick Grayson? What's wrong with Dick Ryder?
I don't know. It's Marvel. It's Marvel sometimes. Sometimes some of they make good movies, but sometimes those executive decisions can be questionable at times. Mm.
There's one more thing I forgot to add to these notes. I love the personification of the factions in this movie. You go to like the Ravengers, and at times they are spouting just complete nonsense. I actually listened back to it because like there are moments of like just yelling at something. And I tried to pick apart like, okay, what are they actually saying? Nothing. They're saying nothing. They're literally just screaming nonsense to be screaming nonsense to appear chaotic. And then you contrast that with something like the Nova Corps, which is very orderly. There's a very like cleanliness to it. I don't know if that's a word. I'm terrible with words today. Very structured, organized, even in the way they fight. They literally build a wall out of ships to stop a ship from falling.
Yeah. As
well as like how utopic the place looks. Ooh, the World Mind doesn't make an appearance in this movie either.
No, it does not. I've heard of that one, but I have not seen it.
And then you contrast that with something like I guess Ronan's forces, but technically the Kree as well. Yeah. It's ordered, very ordered, but it's not quite if I were to put this in like magic terms, Nova is definitely white. The Ravagers, red. Definitely red. And then the Ronan's forces would be black.
So those are magic types, right?
Yeah, so swamp, plains, and mountain. You know, now that I think about it, that's a terrible analogy. Hold on. Let me find something better.
Yeah, I was very confused.
Not everybody plays Magic. Not everybody should play Magic. Chaos, law. Nah. I think I'll leave it at that. Never mind. Alright. Are there any other thoughts you have on this movie, though?
I like how Rocket agrees that Drax says when he starts insulting Rocket. Mm. That seems hilarious. True. That is also true. I'm surprised no one got shot.
I'm glad Rocket does not know what a raccoon is.
Yeah.
Or, not a raccoon. Trash panda.